Where do I even start? I came back from a business trip today to find a sold sign planted in my front lawn. My stepfather, Richard, looked me dead in the eye, smirked, and said, "You don't need a luxury home, kid," as he packed his bags for a VIP European tour. I let him board that flight. And when he came back? He had nowhere to go. But we'll get to that. First, let me introduce myself. My name's Ethan, I'm 28, and I'm a structural engineer. My work is intense, long hours, constant travel, but it pays well. The one thing that grounded me was my house, my sanctuary, my reward for grinding through life on my own terms. Or so I thought. Because as of this morning, it's no longer mine. The moment I turned onto my street, something felt wrong. 3 weeks. That's how long I'd been gone, on a grueling out-of-state project. I was running on 3 hours of airplane sleep, just desperate for a shower and my couch. Instead, I saw it. That sign. Red, white, sold. I slammed the brakes so hard my tires screeched. No, that had to be a mistake. I pulled into the driveway, heart pounding, and rushed toward the front door, my work bag still hanging from my shoulder. And then I heard his voice. Richard. My stepfather, inside my house, packing. I threw the door open. What the hell is going on? He barely looked up, just kept sealing boxes with tape. Oh hey, kiddo, you're back earlier than I thought. Kiddo. He always said it like I was 12, not a grown man who bought his own damn home. I dropped my bag to the floor. What's with the sold sign? He sighed like I was the inconvenience. We sold it. We? Your mother and I, obviously. This house is excessive, Ethan. You don't need something this big. At your age, a small apartment makes more sense. You'll thank me someday. My hands curled into fists. This is my house. I bought it. I pay for it. You had no right. And then he laughed. Kid, you think you did this on your own? That you're some kind of self-made man? He clapped me on the shoulder like I was some naive intern. It's all family money, shared assets. You don't really own anything. I staggered back like he'd hit me. Family money? Shared assets? That's not true. How they stole everything. Let's get into the details. Yes, I bought the house. Yes, I made every payment. But back when I was 23, I needed a cosigner to qualify for the mortgage. My mom suggested Richard. It's just paperwork, she'd said. It'll still be yours. I believed her. My name was on the deed, at first. What I didn't know was that while I was away working, Richard had secretly refinanced the mortgage, removed my name from the deed, quietly and legally. He made himself the sole owner. And then he sold it. I could barely speak. How? He shrugged. You signed the papers, kiddo. Maybe next time read the fine print. I was shaking. Where's Mom? She's already in Italy, needed a break. I gritted my teeth. So you stole my house, took the money, and just left me with nothing? He gave me a condescending smile and patted my cheek. You're young, you'll bounce back. He zipped up his designer suitcase and slung it over his shoulder. Anyway, gotta run. First-class flight, private tours. I'll bring you a souvenir. And then he walked out. Just like that. I stood in the empty shell of what used to be my home, my life. Gone. But I wasn't about to crumble. I was going to burn them down. The setup. The first thing I did was call my mother. No answer. Second call, straight to voicemail. By the third, I was shaking, not from confusion anymore, but from rage. Because it hit me, she already knew. She'd been in on it from the beginning. I fired off a text. Mom, call me, now. 3 dots, then a message. Mom, I don't want to do this over the phone. We'll talk when I'm back. Oh no. We won't. Because by the time she lands, everything will have changed. I stared at the screen, jaw clenched. She wanted to wait, after they had sold my house out from under me? I called again. This time, she picked up. Ethan, I don't appreciate the tone of your messages, she said, her voice eerily calm, detached, like I was the one overreacting. I gripped my phone so tight my fingers ached. You don't appreciate my tone? I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Mom, are you out of your mind? You sold my house. She sighed, like I was being unreasonable. Ethan, sweetheart, Richard and I talked about this, and we really think it's for the best. I could barely process her words. For the best? For who? She kept going. Honey, you have to admit, a house like that was too much for you. Expensive, too big, a lot of responsibility, you work so much, you barely even use it. What's the point of throwing money into something you don't enjoy? I couldn't believe it. Mom, I wanted that responsibility, I bought that house, it was my choice. She sighed again, this time like I was the child. Ethan, you're still young. A place like that is too much for you at this stage. Richard and I found something better for you, a modern condo in the city, low maintenance, affordable, much more suitable for you right now. I was stunned. A condo? You stole my house, and now you're trying to convince me to settle for a condo? Her voice took on that familiar patronizing tone. Sweetheart, you have to see the bigger picture. Richard really helped you out here. He freed you from all that stress. And, hey, we didn't take everything. Some of the money's going toward the condo. Richard will handle the details when he gets back. My stomach turned. She actually thought this was helping me. She actually believed they were doing me a favor. And then, just like that, she added the final dagger. Well, a little went toward our trip. But Ethan, come on. It's all family money. We all deserve a little happiness, don't we? I felt my blood go cold. She didn't even get it. She thought they were entitled to it, all of it. The realization. I spent the next 2 hours digging through my paperwork, desperate to find something, anything, that could give me a leg to stand on. There had to be some way to fight this. And then I saw it. The refinancing papers, the ones I'd never signed, the ones that quietly removed my name from the deed months ago while I was away working. Richard had done it, quietly, strategically, and now, he was the sole owner of my house. He had every legal right to sell it. I checked my bank account next, knowing exactly what I would find. The deposit, $490,000, followed by luxury withdrawals, hotels, expensive shopping, a wire transfer to an overseas account. The money wasn't just gone. It had been spent. But I wasn't done, not yet. I sat in my empty house, rage simmering as I stared at my phone. Richard thought he'd won. He thought he was untouchable. But I had a plan. The strategy. Step 1, make the call. The first call was to my lawyer, Sam. I'd known him since college, sharp, no nonsense, and, best of all, he hated Richard. After I laid it all out, Sam's response was chilling. Jesus, Ethan, he really screwed you over. No kidding, I muttered, pacing the hollow space of my old home. What can we do about it? Well, legally, he had the right to sell the house, Sam said, and my stomach dropped. But, he continued, his voice turning darker, if he refinanced it without your knowledge, we may have something. He could have committed fraud. That caught my attention. How? If he forged your signature, if he withheld documents, that's fraud, and that means we can hit him with a lawsuit. If we prove it, we can freeze his assets and make him pay for this. I clenched my fists. We can prove it? That's what I'm going to find out, Sam assured me. I'll pull the records and see if there's anything that gives us an edge. Step 2, burn his bridges. The next call was to my uncle David. David hated Richard, everyone knew that, but my mom refused to see it. Now, I was hoping he could help. When I told him what happened, his rage was instant. That manipulator, he stole your house? Oh, it gets better, I said. He used mom's credit to refinance. She doesn't even know how deep she is in this. David cursed, then said, "What do you need from me?" David owned a small accounting firm. Richard had used his services for years, trusting him with everything. Anything shady in his financials, and I'll find it, David promised. And if he's evading taxes, he's got bigger problems than you. I smiled grimly. Exactly what I needed to hear. Step 3, the final blow. For the next 2 weeks, I stayed quiet, didn't contact my mother, didn't send any messages to Richard. I let them think everything was fine. Meanwhile, Sam and David were working. Sam was digging into the mortgage, and David was going through Richard's books. Then, just days before Richard was set to fly back, I got 2 phone calls. The first was from Sam. Bingo, he said, his voice full of triumph. Richard committed mortgage fraud. He forged your signature on documents to get the refinancing through. That means the sale was illegal. We've got him. Send me everything, I told him. We're bringing him down. An hour later, David called. You're going to love this, he said, his voice almost giddy. I found undisclosed income in Richard's tax filings. I grinned. Perfect. I perked up. What kind of income? David's voice was gleeful. Let's just say Richard's been hiding money from the IRS for years, hundreds of thousands, under the table cash, all unreported. If I make the right phone calls, he's going to have a serious audit on his hands. A cold, slow smile spread across my face. Make the calls, gladly. Richard lands back, unaware of his fate. Richard's flight touched down at 4:15 p.m. on a Sunday. At 4:37 p.m. I was sitting in my car across the street from his house, waiting. It didn't take long. A black Uber SUV pulled up, and out stepped Richard, looking smug as ever, designer coat and all. He rolled his suitcase up the driveway, humming a little tune, his arrogance on full display. Then, he reached the front door, punched in the key code, and nothing happened. Richard frowned, punching the code again. Still nothing. The door swung open. And there stood my mother. She didn't look pleased. I couldn't hear their exact words from where I was, but their body language spoke volumes. What, Linda, why isn't the code working? Richard asked, confused. My mom crossed her arms. We need to talk. Richard tried to push past her, but she blocked the doorway. Not out here, she said, her voice shaky now. Just let me in, Richard. The bank froze our accounts, she added, her voice trembling. Richard's face drained of color. What? I don't know what happened, she cried. Everything was fine until this morning. I tried to withdraw money and they said the account was locked. Richard's face turned a ghostly shade of pale. Then, his phone rang. He answered it immediately, stepping away from my mom. That's when I saw it. His entire body stiffened. He started yelling into the phone. I knew exactly what was happening. The IRS audit notice had just landed in his inbox. His tax fraud was exposed. His illegal mortgage was flagged. His entire financial empire, crumbling. And he had no idea who had orchestrated his fall. I smiled to myself and drove off, a sense of satisfaction creeping through me. I could have stayed and watched, could have confronted him, told him exactly what I'd done, how I'd turned his entire life upside down. But no, the best revenge isn't always in the confrontation. Sometimes, it's in the quiet, knowing that the person who wronged you has to figure out the mess they've made, on their own. The call. At 6:42 p.m. My phone lit up with my mother's name. I let it ring. Then ring again. And again. Finally, I answered. Mom? Her voice was shaky. Ethan, do you know what's happening? I leaned back in my chair, sipping whiskey. Depends. What's wrong? She gasped for breath. Richard's accounts are frozen. The IRS is investigating him for tax fraud, and the mortgage company is saying there's a legal dispute over the sale of your house. I pretended to be shocked. Well, sounds like he's having a really bad day. Ethan, she snapped, this isn't funny. Did you do something? I let the silence stretch out, enjoying the weight of it. Then, I said, calmly, you and Richard stole my house. There was a sharp, pained intake of breath on the other end. Sweetheart, she began, her tone softening, you have to understand, we were thinking about your future, the house, it was too much responsibility for you. I let out a dark, humorless laugh. Responsibility? Is that your excuse? You took everything from me, and now you're upset that Richard is facing consequences? Ethan, she whispered, the guilt thick in her voice, he's going to lose everything. I smiled. Good. A breath caught in her chest. You don't mean that. Oh, I do, I said, because guess what, Mom, he's not the only one losing everything. Richard's collapse. I found out the rest of the story from Uncle David, who had front row seats to the most spectacular meltdown of Richard's life. After hanging up with my mother, I texted David. Me, how bad is it? David, bad. Me? David, Richard tried to take money out of one of his business accounts, frozen, tried to call his tax guy, found out the IRS is auditing him, he's panicking. David, then he tried to get into the house, and Mom, me, what? David, Mom kicked him out. Me, you're kidding. David, nope, she locked him out, told him to fix his own problems. Me, where is he now? David, no clue, but if I had to guess, he's sleeping in his car. I couldn't help it, a grin spread across my face. 4 years, Richard had lorded over me, made me feel small, as though I needed his guidance. And now? He was sleeping in his car. The final plea. 2 days later, my phone rang again. Mom. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Finally, I answered. Mom? Her voice trembled. Ethan, we need to talk. I set my drink down, my eyes narrowing. About what? She hesitated, then whispered. He's in trouble. He has nowhere to go. He's sleeping in a motel, but I laughed. Oh no, not a motel, how tragic. Ethan, she pleaded, please, we need your help. I leaned forward. You need my help? You mean the same child who wasn't ready for the responsibility of owning a house? The same guy you stole from? Sweetheart, where's the money, Mom? I cut her off. Where's the money from the house? Silence. Then, quietly, she whispered. It's gone. I closed my eyes, letting the bitter satisfaction wash over me. Of course it was. They had burned through it all, luxury flights, 5-star hotels, shopping sprees in Paris and Rome. And now, they had nothing. Absolutely nothing. I took a slow breath. Let me get this straight. You stole my house, sold it, blew the money, and now, with Richard homeless, you expect me to fix it? Her voice cracked. We made a mistake. I smiled. Yes, you did, and then I hung up. Richard finally breaks. That should have been the end of it. But Richard, he wasn't done yet. At exactly 11:47 p.m., I heard a knock on my door. I checked the peephole. There he was, Richard. His usually slicked back hair was a mess, his suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. I opened the door just enough to lean against the frame. Richard. He let out a shaky breath. Ethan, listen, No. I cut him off. Whatever you're about to ask, no. His jaw tightened. I just need some time, a place to stay while I laughed in his face. He flinched. Then, very slowly, I leaned in and whispered. This isn't your home anymore. I watched his face twist, anger, shame, desperation, each emotion flashing in rapid succession. You selfish child. I stepped back and slammed the door in his face. He pounded on it. Ethan, you selfish piece of. I locked the deadbolt, then walked away. His shouting faded as I grabbed a beer, sat on the couch, and turned on the TV. Richard was done. And I had won. The last desperate move. After I slammed the door, I expected Richard to leave. He didn't. Instead, he started pounding on the door, his voice shaking with rage. Ethan, you arrogant man, you think this is funny? Let me in. I took another sip of my beer, completely unbothered. You're wasting your energy, Richard, I called out. You should be saving it for when the IRS starts knocking. Silence, then, boom. He banged on the door again. Let me in. You never appreciated anything, did you? I sighed, then pulled out my phone. 911? Yeah, there's a man outside my house trying to break in. He's screaming threats. No, he doesn't live here. Yes, I'd like someone to come get him. I peeked out the window just in time to see Richard stumbling back from the door, looking around wildly. He was probably realizing he was 5 minutes away from getting arrested. He muttered something under his breath, then bolted down the street like a defeated man. That was the last time I saw him in person. The final blow. In the weeks that followed, Richard's life collapsed completely. The IRS audit went through. Not only did they uncover years of tax evasion, but they also found undisclosed overseas accounts. That triggered a full-blown federal investigation. The fraud case proceeded, and my lawyer, Sam, tore Richard apart in legal filings. Turns out forging someone's name on a mortgage document? Highly illegal. My mother filed for divorce. Yep. The moment she realized Richard was dragging her down, she jumped ship. She froze their shared accounts, hired her own lawyer, and kicked him out for good. I'd love to say she did it because she had a change of heart. But no, she did it because she was scared. I wasn't mad about it. In fact, it was perfect. Because now Richard had nowhere to go. Where is Richard now? Here's the best part. I hadn't heard anything about Richard for months, but a few weeks ago, I ran into Uncle David at a coffee shop. We sat down, caught up, and then I finally asked, "So, where did Richard end up?" David grinned. "You're going to love this. Turns out, after Richard lost everything, he tried to flee the country. Yeah, he actually booked a flight and tried to disappear. But there was one small problem. The IRS had already flagged his passport. So when he tried to board the plane, they arrested him at the airport. I nearly choked on my coffee. You're serious? David laughed. Dead serious. Last I heard, he's trying to fight the charges, but between the fraud case, the tax evasion, and the debts, he's screwed. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. It was over. Richard was done. And as for me? Well, I got my money back. Not all of it. Of course, the house was gone. But between the lawsuit settlement and damages, I walked away with a nice chunk of change. And my mother? She tried to apologize, sent long, guilt-riddled texts, left voicemails about how she had made a mistake and wanted to fix things. But I never responded. Because I realized something, she was never really on my side. She stood by Richard until it was no longer convenient. And me? I was just collateral damage. So I cut her off. Final thoughts. For the first time in my life, I had no family obligations. No guilt. No weight dragging me down. Just freedom. And wow, did it feel good. A few months ago, I was homeless and betrayed. Now, I have a new place, a fresh start, a bank account full of Richard's money. And best of all? I sleep like a baby every night. Because I know somewhere out there, Richard is lying awake in a prison cell, wondering where it all went wrong. And that's the sweetest revenge of all.